YouTube. This is Mahadev, the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to go over my latest musings on how I believe interdimensional beings have been trying to teach me how to create my own reality. So we're going to take a look at that. Welcome to the channel. So I've turned the volume down on the Huar mantra, which is playing in the background, because some people say they don't like it, it distracts them. Other people say they do like it. So for those of you, if it distracts you, here's what I would like to offer you to do. Learn how to think in using more of your brain. Learn how to listen using more of your brain. I'm not going to get religious about this, but the truth is that there is nothing about that mantra that would be distracting. You may not be used to it. You may not be used to listening to somebody while hearing that because your brain is trying to focus on one thing or the other. But learning how to think, more with both sides of the brain, listen with both sides of the brain at the same time, it can be very helpful. But anyway, as I said, I'm not going to get religious about it. I'll keep it there in the background. I'll keep it a little bit subdued. And once again, welcome to all of those of you if you're coming here new to the channel, if you're coming here from the Jeff Mara podcast. I hope you appreciate it. Before we get into this, we are going to be talking about the very crazy, strange things that aliens, extraterrestrials, I believe have been showing me about what it means to manifest, what it means to create your own reality. But bear in mind, this channel is not here for you to just listen to me talk. If that's all you're doing, unfortunately, you're getting about 2% of what I can offer you with this channel. This channel is about giving you practical tools for self-transformation. Self-transformation takes work. Doesn't mean that it's difficult, but you do have to put effort into it. We're going to be talking about that. You're going to have to put effort into manifesting. So on this channel, I've got plenty of, in fact, I have more free practices than I have paid. Listen, if I could make, millions of dollars just by putting up YouTube channels, I wouldn't charge anybody anything, probably. I mean, there is a value to people investing in themselves, and the truth is there's a spiritual truth, which is that there has to be an equal exchange of energy. Otherwise, you don't get any benefit. I know this from personal experience. I've taught people the most valuable, the most high-level stuff, and in the beginning, I would teach people for free, and they didn't learn anything. And they didn't learn anything because they didn't value it. And they didn't value it because they didn't invest in it. And in fact, case in point, there are practices on this channel that are extremely high level that if I chose to, I could have taken just one of them and made that the only thing that I did, and I would be right to have charged hundreds or thousands of dollars. But I make them available to everybody. And the truth is not a whole lot of people take advantage of all of the really valuable stuff that's in here because they don't know. I mean, it's just the way that it is. You give something of value to somebody, if there isn't a value attached to it, they tend to not. And the reason for that is because they devalue themselves. Somebody recently left a comment, and this was somebody that I had spent, some of my free time answering questions on the comment section. And then as soon as this person found out that I have these subscriptions over here, then they went off and started bad-mouthing me, how dare this guy charge, everything should be free. And this person obviously didn't spend any time even looking for the 80% free stuff that is on the channel. And it just shows the mindset. When you have a self-devaluing mindset, then you don't believe you're worth the investment. The other thing is, spiritual seekers who want teachers to work for them for free obviously are very narcissistic. They're not even taking into account this other person has their own life, they have their own time, not to mention the fact they have to pay bills like I do. But it shows misunderstanding. Wanting to be taught for free by a teacher is really wanting to be loved by your parents. Your parents are the only people in the world that are supposed to love you for free, to give you everything for free, to teach you for free. Maybe your aunt, your uncle, your brother, close family members. Outside of that, nobody is supposed to do that. In fact, anybody who does do that is doing you harm. So it means if you're one of those people that says, everything should be given to me for free and teachers should give things for free, without getting into all of the permutations of it, the one thing it means is that you need to heal the wound of the child within you that was never loved, that was never nurtured, that was never completely sacrificed and given to. If you don't heal that wound, it will make it virtually impossible for you to evolve on a spiritual level. Having said that, take advantage of the free tools that are on this channel. Do the Huul breath, H-U-U-L. Do that breath. That is the basic practice that I teach. You can just Google it. Do the Awakening the Immortals Qigong. That is by far the most powerful practice I've given away for free. I would be well within my rights to charge hundreds or thousands of dollars to teach that to people. And go check out what's on the playlists. For those of you who are serious, like you are serious about shifting your energy up to the next level so that you can cross that 5D bridge when it appears without any hesitation, go here to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. You got nothing to lose. Courses.thunderwizard.com, all of my certifications, all of my teachings, all of my courses, all of my services, my Vedic astrology services where you can learn how to present to the world the energy that the world wants to reward you for, rune readings, learning how to find your soul desire, all that kind of stuff. Books can be found. You see my name written here, Michael William Denny, on my latest book, Interdimensional Revolution. michaelwilliamdenny.com. You'll find all of my books. And the most important of all of those books is the Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I've got videos on the channel here for free if you want to listen to me read it. And Interdimensional Revolution, you have to read that, as well as Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth. All right, so what did ETs teach me about how to manifest in 5D? So understand that what works in 5D also works in 3D when it comes to manifestation. In 5D, it's going to be easier because it's just going to be more obvious and energy will be more available to us in that way. But you can also do it in 3D. So we need to talk about first, let me get rid of some misunderstandings. So the law of attraction has some teachings in it which have some value. So let me be clear about that. It's not that there isn't value to some of the things that it teaches. Unfortunately, it is incomplete and it operates from an inaccurate assumption about what 3D space-time is. So if you have a misunderstanding about something, you can only go so far with it, if anywhere at all. Law of attraction has one of these misunderstandings. And the basis of the law of attraction is connected to the idea that we live in 3D space-time, which we do, and that time flows, that we are in this river of time, and that The things that you want are existing, are floating around somewhere out in this 3D space-time bubble, and that with your feelings and your thoughts, you can vibrate at a certain level which will match the vibration of things that already exist out there, and like a magnet, those things will be attracted to you. Sounds really good. Unfortunately, the base assumption behind that is inaccurate, incomplete. And I want you to be honest. How many people have gone to the Law of Attraction seminars and it works for a little while and then it stops working, or it works a little bit? And how many people have you known? How about this one? How many people have you known go to Law of Attraction seminars and what they want is they want abundance? I mean, that's probably 90% of what people focus on, that and wanting to attract love. That's really the bulk of it. People are trying to get money out of it, understandably. Who doesn't want to have an abundant life? And we are under the illusion that money brings us that, which it doesn't, by the way. So you have people doing that, and how many people do you know do this? And you go to the seminar, you go to whatever the guy's name is, the big guy that looks like Frankenstein. What's his name? They come on there and get you doing some deep breathing. They have the music and the lights. You're surrounded by people who are they're hyped up and excited. So there's all of this energy that everybody's feeding off of, and you're going to feel confident about yourself, and you're going to grab the world by a tail, and you're going to go make it happen. And you're going to learn how, in the Law of Attraction, that you don't have to work for anything. You just have to feel the right way, and then things will happen. And you come back home and it works. Or your friend goes and they're now going to be a millionaire, and then a year later they're still, 20 grand in debt. Why is that? Well, the reason for that is, again, there's an incorrect assumption. So the first thing that I'm going to share with you is what ETs taught me about time in the third dimension. So like you, I have this experience in the third dimension that I'm here and I'm walking into the future. Like the future's out there and I'm walking into it. That we go from past to future, and that we're looking into the future from the present, right? Well, what I've come to find out is that that's not how time works. First off, in the fifth dimension, time doesn't flow at all. Not at all. It's somebody described it this way, that in the fifth dimension, when you look at time, you're looking at a deck of cards. And what we do is we experience, one card at a time, right? And if you're in the fifth dimension, you can actually look and peer into the cards, and you can see all of the cards, and in your experience, they're all happening at the same time. It was one way it was put. That was somebody else's way of explaining it, from their interactions in other dimensions. But here's what was taught to me. That imagine that you're sitting on a beach ball that can rotate, in any direction, okay? And so when you walk on it, it'll rotate in whatever direction you want. Now imagine, just for this example, I've come to find out it's more complicated than this, but this is the best way I could understand it in the beginning. Imagine that you're sitting on that beach ball and it's rolling backwards. You're standing on it and you walk forwards. Now, you're actually staying in one spot, but you have this experience that you're walking forwards. Time doesn't flow from past to future. Time is something that, here's another way to look at it. So here you are, let's see, how can I best explain this? Let's see, here you are, you're standing on top of this this empty vitamin bottle, okay? So you're standing there, right there on your ball that's rotating. And what's actually happening is there is no past and there is no future. What there is there's this huge amount of deck of cards that are in front of you, like this. And they're all existing at the same time. Every single probability is existing in front of you. That means your death, your birth, health, injury, happiness, love, all of them are all existing as probabilities, and they're all sort of just floating around out here. Now, as you're sitting here on your beach ball that's rotating backwards and you're walking forward, you feel like you're moving forward in time. What ends up happening is that you end up choosing one of these probabilities that will pass through you, right? So this is marriage. That's not what this rune is. We're just pretending. Let's say it's written marriage on here. So you're standing there and you're walking forward and marriage passes through you. So that could have been marriage. It could have been single monk. Passes through you. I'm going to have 3 wives and 2 girlfriends. That's another possibility. That passes through you. Of course, your wife has 3 husbands and 2 boyfriends, just to be fair. So that's what's happening. What's happening is that there's all these probabilities floating around out here, and you're choosing from a probability. And once you choose a probability, that one comes from out of this realm of possibility and passes through you as you experience yourself walking forward in time. So, you got that? So, before I go any deeper than that, let's just stop there for a second. So, your life is nothing other than a probability. Not a possibility. You notice I'm not using the word possibility because there are infinite possibilities. This is according to physics, 3-dimensional science, we understand this. It is a fact that, for example, this bottle of empty bottle of vitamins, as it sits here, this bottle of vitamins, it is an absolute fact that this bottle of vitamins will, at some point, instantly disappear and appear on the moon. Because infinite possibilities, all of them have to happen. Now the problem is, this universe will not exist long enough, and nor will the plastic on here be viable long enough for that eventual truth happen. So, got it? If this universe existed long enough, 150 quadrillion years, this bottle will disappear and appear on the moon, and appear on Mars, and appear on Jupiter. But the probability of that happening is so incredibly low that there isn't enough time in this universe for that truth to manifest. The probability is incredibly low. So that's why they didn't come to me and say, you are a possibility. Because there's too many unlikely possibilities that could happen. They came to me, and I talk about it in both of my books, Interdimensional Revolution, especially in the first book, Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth. E.T. said to me over and over again, you are a probability. So I had to understand what he was trying to tell me. So time is not a stream that flows from past to future. Time doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist. Don't believe me? Do just the tiniest bit of research into the Mandela effect. If you've been alive longer than 10 years, 20 years, you're going to find things that you remember actually happened, either didn't happen or happened in a completely different way. And it's not that you remembered it wrong or that people are creating false histories. It's the fact that history itself changed, which means history doesn't exist. It's only what we remember. And when we all have a consensus of what we remember, it appears in, the record of where we are, the physical and written records, and we see it as, oh, that's the past. That already happened. It's a thing that happened. But it's not. What you experience is a probability that's floating out here in this infinite space of probabilities. And when you choose one of them, it then manifests in your present reality and it flows through you. Got it? So every single thing that happens, this bottle right here is going to continue to be here in 10 seconds. Let's make it easier. In 3 seconds, this bottle will still be here. 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, look, it's still here. That's because the probability of it remaining in the same way that it is, holding the liquid in there, the probability of that is so great that even though the possibility of it magically turning into a rabbit would happen if I were to sit here, another 100 quadrillion years, at some point that would happen. But the probability of it is so incredibly low, it's never going to happen within the lifespan of this universe. So your life is a probability. I'm 59 years old. Even though I work really hard to stay healthy, I work really hard to stay young. I've had a hell of a, I've had a lot of success in that. There's a lot of people my age that haven't done anywhere near as well as I have. Some people have done better than I have. But what it means is that I have continually chosen from viable probabilities. Even though, I'm in pretty good shape, I'm nothing unusual. I'm nothing that any other 59-year-old person could do if they chose to. They did the same things that I did, had the same mindset that I had, they could be as healthy or healthier as I am. So it's not completely unrealistic, but nevertheless, I'm living that probability. Me aging, is such a strong probability, it's very unlikely I'm going to be able to stop that and reverse that, although it's possible. Got me? So now you're sitting here listening to me and you're going, yeah, but my life is crap and I definitely didn't choose this. And you're going to have to change that belief if you want to learn how to manifest the ET way, the alien way. If you want to learn how aliens can manifest things that we don't understand, you're going to have to change your basic assumption about how things work. And one of them is you have to accept that you have this thing in the third dimension. And I honestly don't know if it exists in higher dimensions. My hope is that it doesn't. But in the third dimension, we have at least 3 consciousnesses that we work from. The first one is the one we're using right now, which is our conscious mind. We see this, I can hear the plane, I can see I'm talking to you. I'm my waking conscious mind, that's the one that we use the most in the third dimension when we're awake. We have an unconscious mind. This is the mind that Freud talks about. This is the mind that Jung talks about. This is the mind that you are not aware of. How many people do you know, somebody's, really angry and you walk up to them and you say, man, you're really angry. They say, I am not angry. Shut up. They're obviously not aware of how angry they are. That's because on an unconscious level, there's something that's causing them to be angry, but they don't want to consciously know about it. In my day, when I was a kid, of course, it's long gone, they used to say people were a latent, you're a latent this, nowadays, of course, anybody can be anything. But when I was a kid, if you were homosexual, that was... So there was this thing called being latent homosexual, it was a real thing. There were people that, usually we're talking about men that were homosexual, but they couldn't tolerate that. So they would just pretend that they weren't, and they would convince themselves. And so psychiatrists would talk about latent homosexuality. What they really meant was unconscious. This person was unconscious of their true sexual nature. So you have an unconscious mind, and you have to accept that the unconscious mind you are not aware of. You know, if somebody comes to you and says, you know, you're this, you're intolerant, you're racist, let's say, for example. The most true thing that anybody can say is, well, as far as I know, I don't think I am. I don't feel like I am. Because once you say, I'm definitely not this, I'm definitely not that, then even if, you know, you might be right 90% of the time, there are going to be times when you're not going to be aware of it. It's going to be going on in your unconscious mind. All right, so you have an unconscious mind. Now, for the average person in the third dimension, the unconscious mind is working against you. Because in your unconscious mind, you have all of your latent, unconscious attachments, beliefs, feelings, responses, reactions. They're happening on a level beyond your conscious awareness. And it is, you know, like the iceberg. You know, there's only, you know, what is it? 10% of the iceberg is above the water. The other 90% is under the water. Your unconscious is the same way. So you say to me when I tell you that you have all of these probabilities floating out in front of you, and your reality is that you are choosing every single nanosecond. You are choosing from a probability, and that probability manifests in your present reality and then moves through you. You're saying, I am definitely not choosing these things. Then that means that you are operating from your unconscious mind. If you are living in a life that you don't like, if you are miserable, sick, sad, alone, poor, angry, misunderstood, and you consciously want something totally different, but your life is manifesting the exact opposite of that, it doesn't mean that you're trapped in a 3D prison. It doesn't mean that false beings of light have trapped you here. It means that you are continuously choosing unpleasant realities to live through from your unconscious mind. You're completely unaware of it on a conscious level. You feel powerless, and for all intents and purposes, you are. So this goes to, even if we allow the law of attraction to have its inaccurate assumption about what 3D reality is, that things are out there floating out there and we attract them to us with our vibration. Here's the problem with that. You can sit on the edge of your bed and you can work yourself up into the right vibration, feeling about money or love or whatever it is. And that isn't, even if that attracted it to you, even if we allow them their understanding, and as long as the vibration is the same, then it has to come to you, right? Well, that you would sabotage that, because if on an unconscious level, for example, consciously you want to bring money into your life. Again, money doesn't exist, but it's what most people try and bring. You want to bring money into your life. But on an unconscious level, you were taught that money is unspiritual, or you were taught that you don't deserve to be happy, you don't deserve money. And it's on an unconscious level. You're not aware of it. Consciously, you're saying one thing, but unconsciously, you have another program that's running 24/7. Even if your conscious thought had the power to override your unconscious programming, which, by the way, it doesn't. But even if it did, what would happen is at some point you would have to go to sleep. And what would happen is that the unconscious program, which is going 24/7, would take over and would veto any positive thoughts that you had floating out there, supposedly attracting these things that are floating out there to you. So the law of attraction falls flat on its face when you understand that you have this thing called the unconscious mind that is constantly undermining your conscious intentions. So the only way out is to take full responsibility. Those of you who believe that there are false beings of light out there that are deceiving you, trapping you here on earth, those of you that believe that there are reptilians out there who are deceiving you, that there is a matrix that is somehow controlled by some evil person who's creating a false reality, and you're just a victim of all of this, you're going to have to drop all that. I know that's how you feel. I understand that. I've lived through no shortage of garbage in my life, and I know exactly what that feels like. Unfortunately, it's just not true. I made the decision, and I don't know how I came to this reality. I must have been 21, 22 years old, something like that. And I just came to the realization, that, my life sucked, and I was in pain, and I felt powerless over everything. And I was, I didn't seem to have any ability to overcome the challenges in my life. And for some reason, I just decided, and I said, you know what? I don't know how I did this, but I am going to just assume that I am creating all of this. I don't know how, because it doesn't feel like I am, but I'm just going to make the decision that that's what's happening. And if I created it, that means I can change it, I can overcome it. I don't know how I'm going to change it. I don't know how I'm going to overcome it. I'm just going to make that decision. And somewhere I got the feeling that, whenever I go through a really challenging feeling and experience, when I'm operating from that feeling of responsibility, then I'm burning through some negative karma. And so I have to keep going in this direction. Nobody taught me that. I hadn't learned it from anybody. It was long before, all this stuff was super popular. I don't know where I got that information. Obviously it came from somewhere else, but it absolutely started changing my reality. And it's always been the fact for me, and I want you to listen to this very carefully. It has always been the fact for me that when my feelings are going completely contrary to what I want to do, my feelings are, if my feelings are telling me that I'm no good, I don't deserve this, nothing goes my way, blah, 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 this is impossible, what I want is impossible, can't be done. When I have those feelings, when I take actions that are completely contrary to that, that go against my feelings, my instincts, my nervous system, my impulses, the action is saying, I am actually saying to the universe, I do deserve this, and this, I am going to have this, even though everything else, including my 3D reality, is telling me otherwise. Whenever I do that, I always end up getting it, every time. So I've learned this without realizing it years ago, and now these beings are explaining it to me. So let's go back to this, how time works. So imagine again, you're sitting on your beach, or you're standing on your beach ball, and your beach ball is rotating backwards and you're walking forwards thinking you're going in a direction. You experience yourself walking from the past into the future as though the future exists and you're walking into it, and that the past exists, which, if it did, turn around and walk backwards. Go ahead. Try it right now. Go ahead and go back in time. See if you can pull it off. What's that? You can't do it? Oh, I understand. Same thing with the future. The best we can, I do rune readings. I've been doing rune readings for a long time. Rune readings is predicting the future, but I've always known that the only thing that the runes show is the most likely outcome based on the flow of energy at this moment. If I change the flow of energy, the future changes. So that means the future doesn't exist. The past doesn't exist. And the present is the only thing that exists. And the only thing that we have in the present is our experience of the present. All All right, so you're standing on your beach ball and you imagine yourself walking forward. You're actually staying in one place, and you're grabbing these probabilities out of the flow of energy, the matrix, the web of weird, cosmic, quantum conscious field, whatever words you want to use. You are grabbing these probabilities, and as you grab them, they become manifest in your present reality, and then it flows through you and you have an experience. Okay? Now, the reason why we can only see after the present happens, we can only see the effects of it, which we think are the past. Why is it we can look back and remember the past, but we can't see the future? Past doesn't exist either. Mandela effect proves that. Past doesn't exist. It's only our memory of something we are remembering that we experienced, and we call that the past. But that's what we see. So the way that I can best describe that is that it is an illusion that you think you're facing forward. You're not. You're facing backwards. You're facing backwards, just like you're sitting in the back of a station wagon when they had, station wagons with the seat that faced the back window. I don't know if they still make them that way or not. They did when I was a kid. And so you sit in the back seat and you can see everywhere you just were. You can't see forward. You can only see backwards. And so this is what's happening. You're grabbing probabilities out of the air. You're manifesting them. And they flow through you backwards. And as they come past you, you see them. And then they drift away into what you perceive as the past. That's why you can't see the probabilities in front of you. You can only see the probability after it's manifested. And this is the third dimension. This has been designed this way by you long before humans ever existed. You got together with a bunch of other deities that are now people or have been people, and you sat around and you guys figured out how to create this thing called the third dimension. And you specifically designed it this way so that you would have an experience of life in the moment, and you would be forced to learn how to take responsibility. This is the whole point of life. The whole point of 3D life is for your soul to learn on a deeper level how to take full responsibility for what you manifest. Now, when you're out there in your normal deity state, this being of light that is infinite and omniscient and all powerful and all that, it's, life is easy. Reality is easy. It's fun. There's no challenge to it. So you purposefully put yourself here, turned yourself backwards, and put yourself on this spinning beach ball where time flows through you after you've mentally, grabbed it and pulled it into your reality, so that you would feel like you're going towards something, as though, like the law of attraction wants to tell you, there are these possibilities floating out there and you attract them to you, which is nonsense. Complete nonsense. So I already touched on it again. I've said it a billion times. I'll say it again. One of the other problems with the law of attraction is the law of attraction equates your feelings with what you experience. And I'm going to share with you something. The reason why this is so popular. The law of attraction is incredibly popular, for one, because it tells a description that there is some truth to about how we experience reality. But the main reason why the law of attraction is so popular, get ready, is because it completely devalues you. You didn't know that. You thought it was empowering you. It's not. It's devaluing you. What creates the density of the third dimension is self-devaluation. This is why the monotheist religions took off and were so popular, because they devalued humans. They said humans are sinful, they're created by God, they have no past, they didn't come from anywhere, they're God's creation, they are here for God's pleasure, and if they don't do exactly what God wants, they can be taken and thrown into an eternal prison forever, regardless of which monotheist religion you choose. They all basically have that same idea that God's up here, you're down there, and you're a piece of crap. You don't have any value. And we worship that. What people don't realize is that they're worshiping their own narcissistic ego, which devalues you all the time. Continual self-devaluation. This is why we have this system of money, because money devalues you. I mean, I don't care how open-minded you are. You judge yourself and you judge others by how much money they have. I mean, society lifts people up who are rich and squashes the poor. You know, this whole housing crisis nonsense, that's been completely, totally manufactured to what? To devalue and control people. So this is the programming state that pulls people into the third dimension in a very solid way, being devalued. That is why the law of attraction is so popular, because it devalues you, and I'll prove it to you. What do narcissistic parents do? Abusive narcissistic parents, what they do is, number one, they don't love their children. They don't see their children as independent, powerful beings. They will train the child to do something that pleases them. So the child will learn that their value comes from pleasing mommy and daddy, which is, again, the Bible. You're here to please God and only. Carry your cross, be humble, make God happy, serve God, fear God. If you've got an angry, violent, alcoholic father, for example, you learn very quickly as an infant that you better not cry a certain way or you're going to make him mad. You better not trip and fall. You better not do anything that's going to upset him, because you're going to get the back of his hand. If you cry in front of him, he might even slap you around and say, knock that off. I'll give you something to cry about. And it's the opposite of what a loving parent does, which is a loving parent picks you up and holds you. You're crying, you get rewarded for crying. You're happy, you get rewarded for being happy. You get rewarded simply because you exist, and then you grow up being a healthy person. When you're disappointed by life, you learn how to do that to yourself, and you don't get bent out of shape, and you pick yourself up, and you like Arnold Schwarzenegger, become governor of California. He would have become president if it was legal. There was this guy, the big gap-toothed looking guy who talked really stupid and, couldn't act his way out of a paper bag, but he believed in himself. And because he believed in himself, he was able to accomplish whatever the hell he wanted. So you've been in the third dimension. No matter how healthy you are, there is a lot of pressure for you to devalue yourself so that you can be solidified, limited, and controlled. And so this is what the law of attraction does. The law of attraction says, well, if you feel the appropriate feelings, then good things will come to you. And that is exactly what a narcissistic parent says to the kid. You better not cry in front of me. If you want to be a good boy, you're going to be happy. Bad boys cry. Good boys don't cry. You're happy all the time because I'm not comfortable when you have feelings. So knock it off. That's the law of attraction. Because what happens when you say, I tried to manifest money? Well, you obviously didn't connect to the happiness associated with money, because it would have come to you. So whatever you attracted, you weren't feeling the right feeling. Now here's the thing, feelings aren't something that you have total control over all the time. Feelings are responses to stimuli. When you have a healthy relationship, the child and the mother, the child will look the mother in the face and say, I hate you. And the mother says, I know, that's okay, come here, and gives them a hug. What does the narcissistic mother do? You say you hate mom, mom's going to slap you hard and say, don't you ever talk to me like that, I'm your mother. You never say anything bad about me ever. And this is what's happening. The universe that you're trying to attract all these things from is on an unconscious level your parent. So all you're doing is you're replaying narcissistic, codependent values of devaluation by trying to manufacture a happy feeling that you don't have. Trying to manufacture positive thoughts that you don't have. Because again, thoughts arise out of the unconscious. They're a reaction to stimulus or an internal memory. You have memory on an unconscious level. You know, I go through this all the time. You wake up in the morning and you don't know why you're in such a bad mood and you feel like such a piece of garbage. Nothing is happening right now to make you feel that way. You know, it's old programming. Thoughts are responses to the internal unconscious programming. So this is why the law of attraction doesn't work. Now, for the people that it does work for, it means that they already have a clean unconscious mind, so that if somebody says to them, think positively about getting that job, the person will go, okay. And if they have a clear connection, they will go home and they will start to feel good and they'll go, oh, great. And then they'll go take action on that. And the action, which is really the communication of grabbing the probability and bringing it to you, they will say, yeah, the law of attraction works. They told me to be excited about a new job and I got really excited about it. So I went out and I applied and I went out and I studied and I went out and I did this and magically the stuff came to me. Or I wanted love in my life and I thought about that and I got so excited about love and I got so excited about being a loving, kind person. I went around and all of a sudden all these beautiful women are wanting to go out with me and they say, because you're such a nice guy. Well, it's because the feeling prompted you to take actions, which then is you grabbing the probability out of the air. And so for some people, the law of attraction works, but it's because the feeling that they had stimulated the proper actions. And that's it. So the good news is that you don't have to have the proper feelings to take the proper actions. Take the proper actions regardless of how you feel, and what you want will come to you. You will be choosing, you will be consciously choosing, regardless of your feelings, regardless of your instincts, regardless of your impulses, you will be choosing consciously what you want, even though you're scared to death of it. So you don't attract things to you. You create them internally and then they manifest. Because you can't attract to you something that isn't physically existing anywhere. It's not floating out there in the ethers that you vibrate in it and you attract it. It doesn't work like that. So conscious thoughts, the only thing that you have any modicum of control over is your choice to consciously think something. So take responsibility for your conscious thoughts. I do this all day. I am as human as anybody. Now that I've had interactions with higher dimensional beings and I'm constantly hooked up to them, and so I know that not 1 nanosecond goes by without higher dimensional beings feeling my feelings and hearing my thoughts. Because that's how things are on higher dimensional levels. You can hear and feel everybody's thoughts and feelings. Now that I know that, it's much easier for me to stop myself when I go into some, in fact, I did it just before we did this video. I went into some fantasy where I was telling somebody off, from 10 years ago. And I stopped and I said, sorry that you guys have to listen to that. Because I know that makes it a lot easier for me to stop, indulging in that kind of thinking and go somewhere else. Now, the feelings behind it, I still have to deal with. I still have to go to my therapist. I still have to go to my 12-step people. I still have to do the work to work through the feelings, but I don't judge myself for having feelings. I judge myself on my actions. And choosing to think about something and reliving something and that's a choice. I can choose not to do that. So your conscious thoughts are what you have, the beginnings of what you have control over. Remember, you don't have control over your unconscious. Can't control that. That's something you have to go in and repair. But the good news is you're not judged for your unconscious thoughts. You're judged for your actions that you take, which are conscious decisions if you're lucky. By the way, the easiest thing to do is nothing. And if you do nothing, you will act out all of your unconscious fears and all of your unconscious self-devaluation. So if you want to continue with that, please go right ahead. Because all you have to do is just do nothing. In fact, you want to aid yourself in doing nothing, go out and get drunk, go smoke some weed, go, go gamble, go do something where you're just wrapped up in your addictions. That's just a guarantee of how you will just, by doing nothing, you will just revert back and let your unconscious programming dictate everything in your life. If you don't want that to happen, then that means you're going to have to take direct action. You have to take full responsibility. You don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to be perfect. It starts with taking full responsibility for everything. That includes your past life, your present life, everything. You must take full responsibility. Your physical body, the health of your physical body is directly associated with the manifestation of your thoughts, both conscious and unconscious. So even though you didn't choose to have whatever disease you might have, it is just simply a manifestation of an internal environment that you created. And it doesn't make you a bad person. Let's go back to the little kid who's been abused. This is what happens with, if you want to know where Jeffrey Dahmer comes from, if you want to know where Hitler comes from, it's at some point we've got an infant who didn't get loved. And in order to survive, these infants come up with extremely immature, self-devaluing programs to survive. And so all that's happening is as adults, they are playing out this programming. They're deeply damaged people. And they cause a lot of damage in the world as well. But there was a choice that happened. So for instance, in the case of, let's take somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder. These would be the people who pretend that they're everything or present themselves as the best at everything. They lie, they cheat, they use people, they abuse people, manipulate them just to get what they want. They only see people as things that they can use for their own pleasure. This is called a narcissist. And what it means is that this is somebody who wasn't loved, wasn't seen as an infant. And what ends up happening is that person made a choice. I'm going to choose to take care of myself in this way. I'm going to choose to fantasize about myself in this way. I'm going to choose to distance myself from this uncomfortable feeling. Like, I'm going to die any moment if my mom doesn't pick me up. Oh, she's not going to pick me up. All right. And they make a conscious choice to create a program within themselves that they think will keep them alive. So all of the things that created all of the garbage in your life at some point was a deliberate, conscious decision, which maybe after the first time you made it, it went into your unconscious and then it just became a program. More than likely, you probably deliberately chose to do certain things over a period of time and then it gets sublimated into the unconscious and then it completely drives you. But here's the thing about the unconscious, and one of my friends said this to me years ago, and it was one of the most brilliant things I ever heard. He had a roofing company, and he learned pretty quickly how to hire somebody, who to keep on his team. And what he said was, if some kid doesn't show up on time the first day, it was a mistake. If the second day his car breaks down and he can't show up to work on time, he did it on purpose. What he meant by that was it was a deliberate action, even if consciously he honestly thinks my car broke down. He was understanding, my friend was understanding that on an unconscious level, these are deliberate actions, even though you're not consciously aware of it. So in other words, he was saying, this kid's always going to be late, and he'll always have an excuse to justify it, and it will be something you can physically go and justify, but I just know this kid isn't going to show up to work on time. If he shows up late once, it was a mistake. If it happens 2 days in a row, he did it on purpose. Your life is that way. You don't have to understand it, you just have to accept it. You don't have to like any of this either, by the way. I don't necessarily like it myself. But if you don't understand that everything is a deliberate choice on your part, then you're not going to make it into 5D. Because in 5D, you are completely aware of everything you are creating from one moment to the next. All right, so conscious thoughts, we've talked about that. Self-talk. So you have to start taking responsibility for the way you communicate to yourself. So you got to catch it when, and listen, I do it all the time. All the time. I'm probably the worst at it. I mean, the self-talk that goes on through me is, I wouldn't, if anybody talked to me the way I talk to myself, I would not have them in my life. So you have to take responsibility for the way you talk to yourself. You have to be responsible for the speech that you give to others. Another thing that happens all the time is that in order to survive socially, we will devalue ourselves in all kinds of ways. I've shared about this before. I hope it doesn't bore you, but it really showed me something. I was out surfing a couple of weeks ago, and the waves were great. It was just about perfect, just about everything I wanted. There was one other guy out there, and we started chatting it up. And out of self-devaluation, I said, oh, if only it was a little bigger. And the truth is, it was perfect, just the way it was. But I wanted to sound good and look good, and it was just a reflex. I didn't even think about it. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I went, oh, that was a stupid thing to say. And then what happened is the very next day, which was had been predicted to be smaller, it was bigger. And it was literally right at the edge of my tolerance level. Had it been an inch bigger, it would have just been too big for me. This is too much. And I realized what I had said, that I had gotten exactly what came out of my mouth. And now to help you understand that, so in other words, in that moment, I myself was saying, I don't really mean this, but I want to sound good, so I'm going to say this. What I didn't realize is that you don't get to do that. If you consciously choose to have something come out of your mouth, then you have to live with the consequences of that speech. This is also 5D. You have to be completely conscious about your speech. And in one of my most recent interactions with higher dimensional beings, a being came to me after we had talked for a while, and he gave me some information. And as always, I say, is there anything else that you would like to tell me? And he sidled up to me. He was very powerful. He was like a little Yoda being. He sidled up to me and he said, what you say is what you mean, and what you mean is true. And that, when you unpack that, what he's saying is that you think you don't mean a lot of the things that come out of your mouth. And even if you consciously know this isn't what you want, what you believe, what you feel, if you make the choice to bring it out of your mouth, then you meant it. It means that you're reflecting something in your unconscious. Bear in mind, your unconscious is filled with, we're going to, conservatively say half of the stuff in your unconscious is your self-devaluation. So just because you have two choices, there's a part of you that wants to say good things, there's a part of you that wants to say self-destructive things, doesn't matter that they both live there. The one that you deliberately pick to bring out of your mouth is the one that you meant in that moment. And whenever you say something that you mean, you are grabbing a probability and bringing it into your reality. So do you get what he was saying? What you say is what you mean on some level of your being. And what you mean, once you say it, that's what's true. Meaning that's what you will manifest. What you manifest will be your truth. You will manifest your truth. You're poor, you're miserable, you're unhealthy. You are manifesting your unconscious truth. It's now in reality. It is now undeniable. It is now your truth. And when he said that, there was an alternate word, because we're communicating telepathically and all that. Another word came up, almost right after that, and it was the word troth. And I encourage you to go look it up. Troth. Troth and truth sound like the same word, but they don't have the same meaning anymore. Truth means that which is verifiably, physically true. It is true that this piece of paper says 909 on it. That is physical truth. It's right there in front of me. Troth is your commitment. The word betrothal. If you watch royal weddings, they will talk about giving your troth to somebody. It means your commitment to somebody. So the truth is your troth. That's what he was trying to tell me. You commit to bringing this into physical reality, and your whole life is behind it. You can't negate it once you've said it. Once you've said it, you've now betrothed yourself to it. It will happen. So, let's see. Yeah, speech to others. So now let's get back to the caveats, because a lot of you may not understand this. Of course, this is basically the teaching of the shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life. This is what I teach in this book. If you read that book, read it over and over again, treat it like a textbook, and if you just absorb that and live that, that will give you everything. And that book, I share with you that, and here's again where the law of attraction is incomplete and backwards and inaccurate. The law of attraction wants you to believe that the universe is this empty, arbitrary place. And that's natural, because that's what we're taught in 3D science. That this universe is this empty, arbitrary place. Life popped into existence out of nowhere, and species evolved into more complex, functional things just out of nowhere. Survival of the fittest, right? And so the law of attraction pretty much says that. Whatever it is that you think about, that's what you manifest, as though the universe is this vending machine. It's a machine that has no consciousness and will just simply give you whatever you think about. So if I think bad things, bad things are going to happen. If I think good things are going to happen. Now I'm going to tell you, I have extremely good things in my life. I've worked very, very hard to manifest the life that I have. But I'm going to tell you the truth that you may not know, because you only see me here on video. And you see me here sometimes on my best behavior. But the truth of the matter is that I would say that 3/4 of my thoughts are negative. Maybe 1/4 of my thoughts are positive. So how is it that I've manifested an extremely positive life when the majority of my thoughts and my feelings are negative? The majority of my thoughts and feelings have been, do you see what I just did? Instead of saying it in the present, I turned it in the past. The majority of my thoughts and feelings have been self-devaluing, have been self-destructive. Yet with that truth, how is it that I continue to create the perfect life for myself? It's because the law of attraction is wrong. The law of attraction says the majority of your feelings is what you're going to vibrate, what you're going to bring to you. And the truth is, all of the people you see in law of attraction seminars, the majority of them, I can tell just by looking in their eyes, they've gone through tremendous trauma as kids. And the thing they want more than anything is to have mommy and daddy love them. And the thing they want more than anything is to stop all the painful negative feelings that are continuously going on inside of them. And what this person says that I can just choose to have all these good feelings all the time and I don't have to have these negative ones. It's just an escape. It's an escape from the negative feelings that you have. And it's a desperate attempt to get mommy, your abusive mommy and daddy, to love you because what did daddy say? You better not cry or I'll give you something to cry about. Mommy said, you never talk to me that way. Never tell me that you hate me. I'm your mother. So they've taken that and somebody's now spiritualized it and says, if you're codependent enough and if you pretend to always be happy and if you pretend to always have the right thoughts, then just like your narcissistic abusive parents, we will be grateful to you not for who you are, but for what you do. And the universe wants to reward you for who you are. So this gets me to aligning yourself with the shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life. The only thing that you are required to do in this life, there's only one commandment. There's not 10, there's only one. And the one commandment that you've been given in this life is to discover what your soul wants. Your soul will not want you to do anything that devalues you or anybody else. People have asked me this, well, what if my soul wants me to be a child abuser? Your soul doesn't want that, I guarantee you. Your unconscious might want that, but your soul doesn't want that. Your soul will want something that very likely will go against the narrative. It will go against even maybe what your parents have told you you're supposed to be and you're supposed to do. Your soul desire may completely go against everything that your religion, your society wants you to be and wants you to do. It doesn't always. Sometimes your soul desire will line up with, what everybody wants. But very often, at some point, your soul desire will definitely go completely counter to some part of the narrative, some part of the programming. And in those moments, you will have to choose between your dharma or karma. Karma is what you create, which usually we associate it with unpleasantness. It's not, but that's what we associate it with. Your dharma is what your soul is here to do from before you were born. Your soul purpose. The other thing is that your soul purpose will always bring you joy, period. End of discussion. You can't say, well, my soul desire wants me to go and make myself miserable by fixing all of the people in all the poor countries and, you want to be Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was miserable, she was depressed, and she hated God, in case you didn't know that. She was trying to please her abusive parents, and she spiritualized it and said it was God. Your soul desire will only bring you joy and happiness. Doesn't mean it'll be easy to accomplish because you'll have to go against all of your programming, some of you. So it may be the most challenging, frightening, painful, difficult thing you've ever done, but it will bring you joy. Now, your conflict, you're going to have to work through that. Depending on how healthy you are, will determine how much conflict you have over your soul desire. All right, so now let's go back to what my ET friends told me. Let me tell you again, going backwards, what the little Yoda guy said was that what you say is what you mean. And what you mean is true. What you mean is your truth. And now you're sitting on a beach ball and it's rolling backwards and you're walking forward thinking you're walking through time, when in reality you're staying in one place, which is the present moment. Time is flowing through you, and as it flows through you, you are deliberately, even if it's unconsciously, you are deliberately grabbing probabilities out of the fifth dimension and manifesting them. They flow through you as they manifest. You experience it as the present moment, which is really just a memory of what just went through you. And then you watch it as it disappears away because you're facing backwards in the back of the station wagon that's you think is going forward in time. And everything that you manifest is deliberate, even if it's unconscious. So, the thing to do, how do you overcome all of this? If you do nothing, you won't. If you do nothing, you will play out all of your unconscious karmas. What was that? It's a possibility not to play out your unconscious karmas? That is correct. It is possible that you don't play out your unconscious karmas unless you do nothing. If you do nothing and operate from responding directly to your feelings, responding to your impulses, responding to your programming, drinking, smoking, gambling because it gets you out of your uncomfortable feelings, operating from fear, feeling like a victim, choosing to adopt victim mentalities because they justify your feeling of being a victim, that is doing nothing. That's being in the third dimension. And you will be guaranteed to manifest and create your karmas. You will live them out and you will create more of them, etc., etc. That's if you do nothing. If, however, you determine what your soul desire is, you learn how to manifest from the fifth dimension, which means you learn how to meditate. You learn how to meditate, you learn how to do energy work, which is another form of meditation. You learn how to visualize from your fifth dimensional self, which will happen when you stimulate your pineal gland, which is why I chose this photo, because that's what it feels like. There's, in my mind, some guy whose pineal gland is being triggered. When you are in an interdimensional state of being, which can happen in your conscious state, but more than likely you'll need to go into meditation. You'll need to do energy work, meditation. You can do interdimensional meditation. That's probably the best way to do it. Get yourself in a place where I'm not in 3D reality right now, and I want to imagine my reality. Now, I did this 5 months ago. No, it was more than that. 5 or 6 months ago. I was living in Florida, and I was doing exactly what I described, and I imagined, even though it was impossible at the time because I wasn't able to come to Australia because I'm not, and they weren't letting anybody in there, and I didn't know when that was going to change. It didn't look like it was going to, but I imagined myself living on the side of a mountain in the forest just down from the ocean. And when I got here 4 months ago, guess what happened? Literally somebody just sort of said, "You want this place?" And without signing a lease and without giving a down payment, and I just give them cash. They live right next door. I've got this. This is the view that I'm looking at. If I were to get up and go to the other side of the room, you would see the ocean. That doesn't happen for nothing. It happens because when it was impossible when there was no way that it was going to happen, I went into interdimensional meditation and I let my heart, I asked my heart, I said, where do I want to live? That's what an ET said. ET said, ask your heart, where do you want to live? So I asked my heart, where do I want to live? And what came to mind was what you just saw. Living on the side of a mountain, surrounded by forests and birds, and walking down to beaches, the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen in my life. It's December, and I'm still going out there and swimming, in just swimming trunks, with no wetsuit. That's how warm the water is. So you consciously choose to grab out of the air what you want when you're in that state. So my suggestion to you is stop being isolating. Find yourself a mentor. I don't care if it's a counselor, a psychologist, a spiritual counselor, a life coach. I don't care. Find one so that you can have somebody to bounce your reality off of. Because those of you that are by yourself, doing it by yourself, the likelihood of you being able to change your life is almost impossible. So you got to find somebody that you can bounce things off of. You need to be doing energy work and meditation on a daily basis and learning how to consciously make these decisions in that meditative state. And I recommend doing interdimensional meditation or CE5. That is the fastest way to evolve your consciousness and burn through your karma. That's what I've been doing, and that's what I recommend other people do. And my belief is that this is where we're headed. We're going to head to a place where that ability to be able to grab probabilities and bring them into our reality is going to be just normal everyday stuff for all of us as we shift into this new 5D reality. All right, having said that, I'm open to take any questions. And bear in mind, if you're new to my channel, I'm not interested in your comments or your opinions. Nothing personal. We all, you know what they say about opinions. Everybody has one, right? So what I want to hear your questions. And your questions are honest questions. You think I might know the answer to something that you don't know. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. The only other thing I want to see from you is your feelings. Because when you ask an honest question or you share a feeling, you're in a state of probability. You're in a state of surrender to the infinite. Having an opinion, you're stuck in one place. I'm not interested in that. You can put those on your channel like I do on mine. All right, so your comments, and not your comments. Your questions and your feelings are welcome. Let me now take a look and see who's here. All right, so Morono Milenma, you know how to do this. You're supposed to write the word question in all caps so that I can see it. You say, when will aliens come and why they come? I can't tell you when. Why? Because they're our family and they want to help us. If you've got ancestors who have passed away, they might be extraterrestrials now. The only difference between us and an extraterrestrial is a soul exactly like yours incarnated in a different body in a different dimension. Happens all the time. They're not different from us. They're the same as us. They are us. I guarantee you at some point you will incarnate as an extraterrestrial. You'll incarnate on another planet in a different body. It's a guarantee. It's going to happen. All right, so everybody, so Morominaulemni, welcome to the channel. It's best, you can't learn and teach at the same time. So when you throw out your opinions, if you've listened to me, I haven't said any of those things. That's completely opposite from what I've said. If you're on my channel because you think I have something to teach you, then it's best that you listen instead of talk. If, however, you know better than me, which you might very well, then stop wasting your time chatting on my video and go make a video on your channel. Best way to take advantage of this is to listen, to take it in, decide whether or not you agree with it, take action on it. And if you want my help, you can ask me questions and I'll be happy to help you. Otherwise, if you know better than I do, stop wasting your time and go somewhere else. That's my loving reaction to people. See, this is the thing. It's not nobody's fault, but this is, again, people, I'm old enough to know what life was like before the internet. And the internet has made people very self-absorbed. And they think that they're, when you're just writing and throwing your opinion onto a Facebook page or on a YouTube chat, it's not the same as when you're sitting there talking to somebody. When you're sitting there talking to somebody, the majority of the things people would throw down, they wouldn't be saying. Otherwise, the kind of person that you've been with, I've known people like this, that all they do is they talk at you and they never listen. Learn how to listen. Treat this like a university classroom. You're going to sit and listen and then ask questions. Throwing out your opinions doesn't make you look any better. Doesn't make you look smart. You may feel like you're looking smart, but you don't. Just everybody throwing their opinions at each other. Anyway, what else? Again, I'm looking for the feelings and the questions. Lightbringer, honest feeling. I desire contact with ETs. I want to learn energy practices from them. Great. Do CE5. Real simple. You don't know what it is? Type the letter C, the letter E, the number 5, the word protocol. Just Google it and you'll figure it out. Or on my channel, go to the free interdimensional meditations. You can just go look at the playlists and just click play, and I guide you through interdimensional meditations. It's the easiest thing in the world. It's easier than anything you could possibly do. And all you have to do is ask, can you guys teach me energy practices? But you can also learn them from me. You can learn them from me for free on the channel, and you can do the most powerful one in the world, which is the Warrior 90-Day Challenge here at thunderwizard.com. What else? Tony Fazzini question, what do you eat? I eat food. I mean, I'm kind of halfway with your question. Like, again, I don't talk about food. I never talk about food. I almost never, I don't make any. Why do you ask me what I eat? How does that help you? I eat food. I eat food that I enjoy, and I eat food that my body likes, and I eat food that is healthy for me. Outside of that, I'm not going to give any nutritional advice, because that's just not my thing. There are people far more qualified than me to answer that question. Sony Q, so don't be lazy. You can write the whole word Q. If I'm scrolling through, I'm not going to see that. But if you write question, I'll see that. So don't be lazy. Have respect for me and have respect for yourself. Write out the whole word. Question. You say, what is the most important thing in life? I already talked about it. If you need to, go back and rewind the video and listen to the part where I talk about the learning what your soul desire is. And Goo, if you have a question, write the word question, because otherwise I won't see it. You say, any advice to heal the reptilian technology, body and brain destruction? Welcome to the channel. I assume that you're new. So I do have some videos on this channel about reptilians, but they're parodies. That was a while ago, and I was doing it because I was so frustrated with this belief. But as you've probably heard me say, there is no such thing. If there are reptilians that are visiting our planet, that just happens to be if they exist. I don't know if they do or not, but if they do, that just happens to be, what evolved on their planet. So here's the thing. There are beings that we would consider to be insects. There are beings, extremely powerful beings. In fact, the being that taught me the first and the most was a mantis being. I believe he was like 7 feet tall and he was red. And he was a mantis. So it's quite an interesting being to look at. But he has an incredibly beautiful, powerful, wonderful soul. And first thing he said to me was, I'm your brother. So from his perspective, he doesn't care that I'm a monkey and that he's an insect. So this whole, this exo-racism which goes on is kind of ridiculous. So I'm here to tell you that I don't believe that reptilians are doing anything to us. Now, what you're talking about, the reptilian technology, is actually humans. So I've got a link pinned at the top, which if you haven't already, go and watch that, and you'll find out that all the things that you're calling reptilian are actually made by humans. Humans are the deep state psychopathic humans that are running this country. They have all of the technology that people have said reptilians have. Humans already have. So any advice to heal that? I mean, are you talking about the world? Are you talking about yourself? My suggestion to you is to focus on yourself. Empower yourself. Heal yourself. I give on this channel, all I do is give techniques to help you do that. You can go on to the playlists and pick whatever you want. Learn how to search within my channel for those things. If you want me to guide you step by step, then go here to thunderwizard.com and subscribe. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. So my advice to you is to do the work to fix yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, and don't worry about anything or anybody else, and get rid of this idea of reptilians. It's a made-up distraction, because the people that you should be worried about are human, not reptilian. Thundra question. I've had a lifelong serious neurological sleep disorder. Sorry to hear that. And as much as I'd love to change that and not take meds, it doesn't feel realistic. What do you suggest? Thundra. What I suggest is that you do the same thing that I've done and continue to do when faced with things that I don't think I have the power to change. I accept the reality that's in front of me, but I say to myself, I don't know how, but I take full responsibility for manifesting fill in the blank. And I am going to change it. I am going to be, in your case, I would say, I am going to heal the neurological sleep disorder, and I am going to sleep through the night. I am going to heal that within me. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I will die doing it. The other thing is to understand that, again, we live in a probability. So the probability of, let's share this with you. So this has been proven. You take two identical twins. This has happened. Take two identical twins and take a look at their DNA. Now, when they were born, their DNA was identical, right? I don't know how identical, but very close to identical. So left alone, if we look at it, this is a deterministic, world from science. They'll both grow up with the same diseases or lack of diseases, the same health, the same mental health. They'll be the same. But what we find is that you take these identical twins and you look at their DNA when they're 40 years old, 45 years old. You'll find that the person who's depressed, the person who has physical ailments, their DNA is significantly different from their identical twin who is happy and healthy and prosperous. And what you find out is what I've just been talking about. The attitudes that they deliberately choose to invest in changes your DNA. So when your body is telling you something, reality is telling you something, people are telling you something, your unconscious is telling you something, and you make the decision to be something that is completely different from that, and you take the appropriate action to follow up with that, your DNA goes, oh, well, let me flip on this switch and turn that switch off. I'm sorry, I thought you wanted to be miserable and sick. Oh, you want to be healthy. Oh, let me turn that off. Let me turn that on. Your DNA will adjust to change, which means your body will adjust to change. So the fact that, look, let me give you another example. I'm not trying to minimize that. I can only imagine how challenging that would be, especially since that's your reality and what people have told you. Doctors have told you that. Doctors say a lot of things. And they're doing the best they can. They talk from what they think they know. a woman dying of cancer, riddled with huge cancerous tumors. She was going to die. Everybody knew it. She was in her last moments. She's hooked up to life support. She goes into a coma. She's about to die. She has an out-of-body experience, a near-death experience. In fact, she did die. She did die. Everything flatlined. Everything was dead. She went off, and she went off to what we call heaven. And the moment that she left her body, which your unconscious stays in your body, your unconscious doesn't come with you. She leaves her body. She goes to this beautiful heavenly place, and she realizes that she feels love from everything. The entire manifested universe is filling her with love. And then she becomes aware that she's loved simply because she exists. And then she becomes aware that the only thing that she has to do to receive complete, total, unconditional love is just to exist. And then she realized, oh my God, my whole life, I've spent my whole life thinking that my value comes from taking care of other people, meeting other people's needs, pleasing other people, and doing that made me so angry. And the anger that I had and the self-hatred that she had built up in her body and created this illness. Now you talk to a doctor, he's going to say, well, in your DNA, you've got this DNA here, which flipped on here and did that. And he's not wrong. But what we just said is your DNA will respond to your internal environment about yourself. The decisions that you make. You have to make a decision. You have to commit to it. And then things will change. Hoping, praying, well, anyway. So she meets up with her father, and her father says, you have to go back. And she goes, oh, okay. She's back in her body. Boom. She wakes up out of the coma. She's still riddled with, oh my God, she's alive. And then she tells everybody, I'm going to heal. And the doctors are like, I'm sorry, baseball, grapefruits, there's just, She's like, I'm going to heal. She knew she was going to heal because she knew that her disease was the result of her self-devaluation. And she didn't have that anymore. She was lucky enough that that was purged of her when she went off and left her body. That's why I keep telling you guys that for the first time in history, interdimensional meditation, CE5, interacting with higher dimensional beings, is we get to have all of those near-death experiences without having to die. That's what I've gone through. I mean, I've my dead parents, my dead fiance, all came to me. And not only did I work through those karmas, but I even went back into a previous life and was able to work through the karma that I had with my mother when I was her father in a previous life. That only happens when you have a near-death experience. That doesn't happen for people. So that is something that, these beings are offering to you because they're saying, hey, 3D's done. We're done with this experiment. You guys get to stay on the ship, but we're going to upgrade the ship to another level. So you've got to get rid of all of what you think you know about who you are, but you have to ask. You have to reach out and ask. So hopefully that answers your question. Ayub H. question. Should we only manifest things we have a high probability of achieving? Yeah, that's not what I said. So try and think, before I answer that, I want you to do the work. I don't want you to be a lazy listener. I want you to put some effort into it. What do you think I'm going to say to you? I told you already. It had something to do with your soul. So what do you think I'm going to tell you you have to manifest? This is why people need to pay attention. Two most important things in life is to pay attention and put effort. I've already said it. I repeated it. I will say it again. There's only one commandment, and that commandment is that you must become aware of what your soul wants, and then you must live that. It's the only thing you're required to do. If you don't do that, you are guaranteed to be miserable. To the extent that you are in conflict with that, meaning you're doing some and not all of it, then you have conflict. You want to be free of conflict? You want to achieve what people call enlightenment? Find out what your soul wants and then be willing to do whatever it takes to manifest that, even if that means you'll die doing it. That is your purpose for being here. So you don't even know, if you're asking this question, you don't even know what you're supposed to manifest. But the closer you get to your soul, the higher probability there is. Now, if I look at your question at face value, it means that you're intellectually in your third dimension trying to think, well, you know, I want to become a ballerina, but I'm 205 pounds. I mean, I probably won't be able to do that. That's not what I'm saying. The probability in the third dimension is meaningless. If your soul wants you, your 205-pound man wants you to be a ballerina, if that's what your soul wants to do, that is what you have the highest probability of achieving, even though it's the least likely thing in your current three-dimensional reality. So don't think about this in terms of three-dimensional probabilities. In fact, stop trying to decide what you think is probable and what isn't. Remember what I said about manifesting this house. I asked my heart, what is it that I want? What house do I want to live in? And a fantasy erupted, and it was this house. But it was the least probable thing that I could have done. So if I was following based on your question, I'd still be living in northern Florida, and I'd still be pissed out, really unhappy, and, really wishing I was here instead of there. So learn how to think differently. I invite you to watch more of my videos. Get my book, especially The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. You need to re-educate yourself on some of the thinking that you're doing. Thanks for the question. Lightbringer question. Is there a specific practice you like to do on the new moon? On the new moon? I'm pretty simple. I do the same stuff all the time. I do mantra. I do my Qigong practice. When I'm doing it, I do my interdimensional meditations on a daily basis. So no, there isn't a specific thing, but I don't have anything wrong with you finding something special for the new moon. It's the intention that's most important. So whatever it is you do, I think that's great. Timothy Zoll, honest feeling. Been doing solo CE5 meditation. Looked for in-person group CE5 meditation on app, but received no response. That's because it doesn't exist. There's CE5 groups, so the average CE5 person is going out with their lawn chair looking for lights in the sky. It's kind of annoying for me, actually, because they're so focused on that. And that's like, if I see the guy across the way there and I want to get to know him, and somebody tells me he drives a blue Toyota, it's like me sitting on the road with binoculars looking for a blue Toyota all the time, when I could just go to his house and knock on the door and then talk to him in person. But for a lot of people, that's the best they can imagine. I wish that people would go more into wanting to connect personally instead of staying in that mindset. But people do whatever they got to do. So you're not going to find an in-group CE5 meditation group. You're going to find CE5 groups that are going to go out with their lawn chair and look for lights in the sky. And that's a whole different thing, by the way. Your personal meditation is one thing, but group CE5 has a completely different mindset. So understand, and I believe this is why Dr. Greer and his ET friend came up with this, because as I understand it, they came up with this CE5 thing together. Bear in mind that the CE5 protocols are not at all necessary to contact higher dimensional beings. The CE5 protocol is for the humans. It's for their mindset to make them more able to see, understand, and accept the experience that will come from it. But coming together as a group is about shifting the collective consciousness. Now, you can shift the collective consciousness with your own private meditations, but and I've come to find out that's my job. My job, I'm going to accomplish more by going and meditating privately at the moment. That could change, but at the moment, I'm going to accomplish more for the world doing that than I am, trying to find a group. But for people who are just starting out in all this, when you have a group of people who simultaneously have a shift in their dimensional thinking, it vibrates on the level of the collective consciousness. And so when the collective consciousness, it's been thrown out, when 1% of the collective consciousness of the world becomes open to the understanding that we're not alone and that we are souls living in infinite numbers of souls and infinite numbers of worlds, when we get to 1%, then the world will shift up. So the point of CE5 is really about that. But then you take that and you bring it home and you do your private meditations. Having said that, I don't have anything against creating a group. I would call it interdimensional meditation because I think that's more an accurate understanding. CE5 is something else. It's really about looking for lights in the sky. And maybe somebody shows up and has an experience. Interdimensional meditation has nothing to do with them showing up in ships. It has everything to do with you dimensionally shifting yourself and going and meeting them on their plane. And I'm open for all of that to change. That's my view about that now. So I hope I answered your question. So I understand that you're disappointed, but you can shift that around if you want. Pa Joe, question. Does our dreams in our sleep have meaning? Yes. Very general question. Welcome to the channel. It could mean your unconscious mind. It could mean your fears. Usually it means your fears, your fantasies. Maybe 1 or 2% of your dreams have some kind of meaning. So you're asking me, generally speaking, 97% of the time your dreams are just your brain farting while you sleep. Every now and then you'll have something that has some other meaning. So Timothy's all honest feeling, been doing solo. I already answered that. Tony Fazzini, question. I heard your reply. You may not know, but I have heard a lot that meat is bad for ascension. So then let's just be clear, Tony, you're not asking me a question. You're giving an opinion. You have every right to that opinion. I never talk about, again, I say this over and over again, you should ask me about what I teach. Don't ask me about what I don't teach, because you wouldn't walk into a university math class and ask him about Shakespeare. He's going to go, the Shakespeare class is on the other side of campus. Go and ask them. I'm teaching geometry. So it's respectful of you to come into my classroom and listen to what I teach and ask questions based on what I teach. Having said that, you don't know that I've never once talked about diet other than generally speaking to get rid of the garbage and eat healthy food. And it's also, just to let you know, it is devaluing of this to tell me what somebody else said. I don't care. Just to give you an example, I'm an old school guy. I learned old school Kung Fu and Qigong and yoga from, guys from those countries back in the day. And if you walk into a Qigong class or a Kung Fu class and you say, the guy down the street says that I should hold my fist like this instead of like this, the teacher's going to say, thank you for coming. There's the door. I can't help you. So don't tell me what somebody else says. If you want to take what somebody else says, by all means, and go and put it on your channel. Ask those guys. The guy who says meat is bad, ask him. The person who says, I know about diet, ask them. Don't ask me. I don't talk about it. So I'm glad that you heard that. But again, that's not a question. You just said, try and show me where the question here is. I heard your reply, and you may not know, but I have heard a lot that meat is bad for ascension. That's a statement. Is there a question in there? Are you asking me anything? Be clear about what you say. This is what we're talking about here. Have the ability to know what's coming out of your mouth. What is the intention behind what you're saying? People have learned, our society teaches people to ask questions, to make statements in the form of questions. It's called passive aggressive. People do it all the time. On my channel, I want you to be able to know a question is coming from a desire to know something. You're not asking me. You have an opinion. I'm not interested in your opinion. I'm grateful you have it. Good for you. Follow your opinion, follow your gut. But when you don't know, you can ask me, and if it's what I'm talking about, I'll have something to say. Otherwise, do whatever you need to do. And ask somebody else about whether meat is good for you, bad for you, because that's not something I specialize in. What else? And welcome to the channel. Thanks for asking. Timothy's all question. Is it possible that you can lead an in-person interdimensional meditation group? Of course it's possible. Yes, that is a possibility that I could physically do. Yes. Any plans in the near future? I don't have any plans in the near future because my personal living situation is not stable. I'm living in a foreign country. I'm on a tourist visa, and I'm doing the dance to be able to stay here. So I'm really not in a position to say in 6 months, Queensland, Australia, I'm not even, allowed to do that for, financial reasons because I'm a tourist. So I don't have any plans in the future. Is it something that I want to do? Yes. Is it something that I plan to do once I get all this figured out and I'm able to manifest concretely my living situation? Absolutely. But I can't give you a time when that's going to happen. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Okay, that's not on anything other than hello. All right, so is that it? Are we all done with the comments and the questions? I appreciate everybody who showed up, especially those of you who are new. Looks like there's a lot of new people. So now you kind of have an understanding of how this works. I will drone on and on for a while. I will give a lecture. I am hoping that you treat this like a university classroom, that you come and you have a question based on what I'm talking about or what I've taught before. If you're unfamiliar with what I teach, then put some time and effort into watching the channel, watching the videos. But the most important thing I will know if you're doing this, and this will make me very happy, is if you do the practices, because then you'll be able to ask questions based on something I have given out to the world. And again, your best course of action, if what you want to do is to shift your energy up, is to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. But if you want to figure out whether or not it's worth it, do the Awakening the Immortals Qigong. You'll find out what the power is about. And if you like how that power feels, then subscribe, because it gets even better. And this is the energy that will help us to shift to a higher dimension and give us even more ability to interact with these higher dimensional beings, which I'm of the belief is probably the most important thing we can do right now at this time. Is that it? Okay, that's it. Thank you everybody for showing up. I love you all. Again, if I've done or said anything that was hurtful or offensive, bear in mind I'm the kind of teacher that tells you the truth, even if you don't like it. I love you so much that I will tell you the truth, even if it means that you don't like me and you're going to unsubscribe. I'm not here to kiss people's asses and get as many subscribers as possible. I am here to get out the information that could save your life, because time is short. We've got a limited amount of time to pull this off. And so I do that, and it's literally the entire focus of my life right now, is to be as helpful as I possibly can to anybody who will listen. So that's it. I wish you guys all the best. Take care. And again, if you haven't already, go and click on the link I have pinned at the top. It's also in the description. Dr. Greer's press conference disclosure about UFOs. Many of you, it will completely shift your understanding about what's out there, especially if you're one of those people that believes that aliens abduct and harm people, or that there are false beings of light. You'll find out very quick all of that is actually done right here on Earth by human beings, pretending to be aliens. All right, that's it. See you guys next time. Thank you so much. Be good to yourselves, and I'll see you next time.